Hey, there is a garden underneath there. Guten gardening, everybody. I am here at our community garden plot. Prior to going on our vacation, I had come out here and done a thorough weeding. But 2 weeks away, and this place is overrun with weeds. It's one of the challenges, I think, with a community garden area. We have weeds at home, but they seem to take such a quick foothold here. Well, today I want to give you an update on how things are growing. And before we left, there hadn't been very much rain. While we were gone, there was enough rain to finally get our squash plants really taking off here. So I want to show you how they're doing. We have onions here, we have corn. The corn seems to be struggling a little bit. I had to come back and replant a whole bunch of it because a bunch didn't germinate. That lack of rain, lack of being able to get out here and water really impacted us. But I want to show you how everything's doing and take you along for some of the weeding work that I need to do. Let's get started. I'm actually standing in the shade of my neighbor's corn and sunflowers. You should see these sunflowers. I'd say the tallest one's probably about 12 feet right now. It's really impressive. I wish I could say the same for our corn here, and we're not growing any sunflowers, but I can see really nice ears of corn. My neighbor got things started really early on, and by the time we got out here to plant corn, I'd say theirs was already about 8 or 10 inches tall. They did a really nice job. It's one of the nice things about coming out here to the community garden spot. I can see all the different gardens and how well developed they are. Well, I'm gonna give you a different angle view of our garden plot and show you just the amount of weeds, etc., that I have to sort through. Our sweet potato beds, I can kind of see the outline. Once I get some of these bigger weeds pulled though, I think you'll get a clearer picture of what we've got in here. Well, that was a struggle. Well, this pigweed is what a majority of the weeds seem to be. This is everywhere in the garden. It's got a pretty decent taproot to it, and when it gets this big, it can be a real pain to pull. But I've got hundreds of these in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the work, and I think I really need to clean out these weeds first before I can truly show you what's going on in this garden space. Now, I've only cleared out a little spot of this so far, but I'm already exposing some of the awesome summer squash we're gonna have in here. We got something like 20 plants in here with a whole bunch of different varieties. But take a look at this kabocha squash. Doesn't that look beautiful? And that's just the start. Now, we talked about not growing potatoes here, and the reason being so many pests. Well, this looks like a volunteer potato. I'm gonna see if there's anything underneath, but I just saw a Colorado potato beetle in here. Let's see if I can find it again. Oh, there it is. So, these things are absolutely a nightmare here. And so this one didn't have a chance, and we didn't even waste our time. We didn't even waste our time with it this year, but let's see if there's anything underneath here. Everything's so lush and green at home, and this one's clearly just been eaten down. Oh, there you go. A couple of little potatoes. There might be a few that came off just now. Yep, I feel one right here. This will be the extent of our potato harvest from at the community garden. A volunteer potato with a couple of magic mollies on here. These are purple magic molly potatoes. Well, I've only been working about 10-15 minutes in here, and I've already got a nice little path into the chaos. But wait till you see what this looks like when I've cleared it out. It's gonna be a whole different ball game. I'm definitely making progress. I'm gonna go ahead and dump this first load. Hey, there is a garden underneath there. All right, now that I've cleared out most of the garden away from the corn, I want to go ahead and take a tour of what we have growing over here. First of all, we have some tomato plants. There are only 2 tomato plants, and we don't typically grow tomatoes here, but we had somebody else who gave away a couple of tomato plants and the onions that we're growing. And you can see these 2 tomato varieties are actually doing quite well. They're way too bushy. They need pruned back. I'm not gonna have time to do that today, but they're still loaded down with tomatoes. And I'll say that our onions are looking pretty good. Again, there's a couple that are a little softer. I want to get those out of here, but they haven't fallen over yet. So there's probably still some more size we can get out of them, especially now that the weeds have been removed. And here's what I ended up harvesting on August 3rd. Now, our sweet potatoes had lots of weeds around them, had some weeds inside the beds as well, but they're actually in pretty good shape, I think, given the fact that we put down this black plastic, and the black plastic has helped to keep a large number of the weeds down. Last season when I came out here, the weeds were everywhere. The weeds were throughout the bed, and we, had a real hard time with the harvest. But I mounded up the soil really well this time around. I put down that black plastic, and hopefully that makes a difference. We have 2 beds here, about 18 plants total that we're able to get in these beds. Now, I mentioned we had about 18 or 20 different squash plants in here, and some of them, the ones closer to the edge, are definitely farther along. They had less weed competition, especially the area where I put the weed mat. That seems to be a really good indicator that that's something I should do for next season for a bigger part of the garden. But even though some of the squash plants look a little worse for the wear right now because I just weeded around them and they need to perk back up a little bit after being moved around a little bit, we're definitely seeing some good production starting out here. And so our kabocha squash, we've got Canada crookneck squash in here. We've also got butternut. We got quite a few different varieties here. And so we're seeing some of the squash come in. I've been out here weeding for about 3.5 hours now, and I'm halfway done the corn. I've got the rest of everything pretty much weeded out. The corn itself, as you can see, does not look well. You can see where I came in and planted a second seed of the corn for where it didn't actually germinate the first time. So those are really small. The rest of our corn's not even that big, to be honest. I will say that being gone a couple weeks, not being able to consistently water, even though I just talked to a guy here and he said we got about 2 inches of rain while I was gone during that time. So now we know about the amount that we got. The corn itself is not thriving the way we'd like. We did add nitrogen to it because we are needing nitrogen. That's what the soil test here said. But anyway, I think all this weed competition didn't help either. Well, I'm going to wrap up this video. I've still got some weeding to do here in the corn in particular, but I think I've shown you what's growing right now, giving you a little update. We'll let you know how things are progressing as we move farther forward, in this season. I'm hoping in the next month or so to see some even better growth now that I'm back, now that we can continue to weed this and keep this area nice and clear so our squash and everything else is really productive, we hope. All right, we've got some storms coming tomorrow. That's what's in the forecast anyway, tomorrow or the next day. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that those happen. We'd love to see that as well. But in the meantime, we hope you enjoyed today's video and this update. If you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.